Hey everybody, it's your girl Vernique Esther, and we are here for another episode of Perspectives on Wife. I have today my friend Janelle King. Janelle is a Toronto native and a registered nurse in college health, and she is married to her husband of 8 years, and she has an adorable 4-year-old, and she is all about sexual and reproductive health, sexuality, and vaginas. I don't know why I have to sing it, but I just feel like you should. You should sing vaginas. She's super passionate about her work and truly an expert in her field. I love reading her blog. I learned something new with every one, and she tries out some fun products sometimes.
Yes.
And so I really am excited to have you here. Thanks for joining us,
Thank
Janelle.
you for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Yeah. Okay. So my first question that I ask everybody is, if you had to define the word wife, how would you define it?
So for me, a wife is a multifaceted, multi-talented, the ultimate partner. You have to be a wife. You have to be a confidant, a motivator, a lover. Sometimes you the maid. You kind of just do everything. And that could all be in the span of 5 minutes. So for me,
That's so true.
A wife is the ultimate partner.
Good, yeah, I like that. The ultimate partner. And like you said, the key word is really multifaceted, because you have to do everything. Like, there's nothing that has to be beyond your scope if you're a wife. Like, you can't just be like, oh, well, I don't know, so I hope somebody else figure it out, because
Right.
you're the person to figure it out.
Exactly. And my husband will always turn to me and ask me, I'm like, dude, I don't know. Like, you can look it up just like
I can. Together, right?
Right. You can look this up just like I can. So
yeah.
So it's multifaceted.
So, if you had a soundtrack to your marriage, what would it be? Like, what's the song that describes, your marriage?
So, I've been married for 8.5 years. Every marriage goes through seasons. So for me, I don't know if there's one song. Mine would have to be a remix.
Oh, okay.
What's a DJ Khaled remix or something like that.
Like a little hodgepodge.
A little mashup. So, it would be 0 to 100, started from the bottom.
0 to
Drake.
100. Okay. Oh, yeah, Toronto.
A little bit of Drake in there. I Will Always Love You. So we've been married for 8 years, but we've been together for, I think it's 12 years. So,
wow.
I've seen
double digits.
Right, ups and downs. We've grown together. So our soundtrack would just be a compilation of different songs to formulate the different seasons of our marriage.
That's good. You're the first remix we've had. So that's interesting. I like that. But of course you had to throw in the Drake. Now the 0 to 100 part, I was like, you cutting up Janelle?
Nah. Well, there are days.
Yeah.
Some days are better than others. But most times we're good. We laugh a lot. We just take things in stride. So it's all good.
Yeah. Okay, so tell us a little bit about your love story.
So Gary and I were actually introduced through his best friend. I lived in Columbus, Ohio at the time. He was in Cleveland. His best friend actually lived in Columbus. He was attending law school at the Ohio State. So Gary came down to visit him. Mm-hmm. We were actually introduced at church, of all places.
Okay.
Yes. So he came down to visit his best friend. His best friend introduced us. I can say that I wasn't impressed with him.
Ooh.
Yeah, he wasn't a fan favorite.
Oh.
I thought he was very standoffish, very rude. His best friend introduced us, and then his wife reintroduced us a couple minutes later, and I'm like, why did he introduce me to this dude? Like, okay, hi, how you doing?
Hello.
So, in the evening, his friend was throwing an event, a party. I had invited one of my friends from out of town to attend the event, and I totally forgot. So he called me and he's like, where you at? I'm like, oh yeah, yes, I probably should come. So I went, and then I saw Gary again there, and I, just said hi. And again, it was just real weird, standoffish.
Really?
So I just left it at that. My friend ended up leaving early, and I saw Gary stand there, and I was like, do you want to dance with me? And his friend,
After all of that?
it was so, yeah. because, I guess maybe I'm just used to people paying attention to me, and I just couldn't get why this dude wasn't paying attention to me. So I asked him to dance. He said, hold up, I gotta pee. So in my mind, what? I'm not getting this dude. So end of the night, we finished talking, we exchanged numbers. He goes back to Cleveland. I stay in Columbus. I spoke to him maybe about 2 days later, and we started talking ever since. We actually dated long distance for 2 years.
Wow.
Yeah, 2 years. He was in Cleveland, I was in Columbus. We commuted back and forth, hung out for a lot of that time. Eventually he moved to Columbus because I told him that I'm never living in Cleveland, and he was okay moving because he never left. So he moved to Columbus. We dated for about 2 years before he proposed.
Wow.
Yeah, so we had a lot.
So 4 years of dating.
2 years of dating, 2 years of we were engaged for 2 years.
Okay.
Yes, yeah, we were engaged for 2 years. We had a long engagement just because that's kind of the way things worked out. A lot of our friends and family were getting married. We're like, we'll just wait another year. It's no big deal. So we got married. We've been married for 8.5 years. We have a beautiful 4-year-old, and that's our story. They look like twins, so good.
I know, she is so adorable. Oh my gosh, she's so cute. Your whole family. I love y'all's photos. Okay, so tell our viewers what you do professionally and about your brand.
Okay, so I'm a registered nurse by profession. I work here in Atlanta. I am in college health, so I help take care of young, fresh minds every day. And I'm also a blogger. I'm a nurse blogger, and I've been doing that for just over a year now. It's great. So I'm a recent transplant to Atlanta. I've been here for just over a year. I worked in actually teen and young adult health when I was in Columbus, Ohio. I loved it. I served a lot of great women there. But there was actually a need that I saw. A lot of the women would come in with a lot of misconceptions just about sexual and reproductive health.
Especially at that age.
Yeah, and a lot of inaccuracies. And I'm like, where are you getting this information from? So a lot of my time was spent just educating on like, no, this is actually correct, or no, this is not really right. So I figured if they were coming in with questions and just some inaccuracies, why not just share it on a bigger platform? So that's where it birthed my blog, The Nurse Note. So on the blog, I share a lot about like reproductive and sexual health, and just give some really good, solid content based on facts and science, since I'm a nurse, and that's kind of what I do.
Yeah, and y'all, the Nurse Note is really good. And honestly, there were some things that I got checked on. I felt like I kind of knew a lot. I feel like I knew what was going on, but I feel like there were some things, even the differences when you talked about birth control and just all these different things that you don't think about, like down to the detailed stuff. And so y'all definitely check her out. I mean, great content. Like she said, really solid content. So since you're like the woman to ask, let's talk about vaginas. Or I'm sorry, vaginas. So first of all, as it relates to relationships, why is vaginal health important?
So let me just back that question up a little bit. Vaginal health is just important overall, in general. So the same way that you would take care of your body, getting your blood pressure in check, making sure you go to the gym, eating right, doing all those things, it's important to do the same thing with your vagina. So you got to make sure your health is in tip-top shape. You got to make sure that you have a doctor or provider that's going to help treat symptoms and issues, or just that you can have a relationship with, so you know what's normal from what's your normal versus what's not normal. So having that relationship with any kind of provider, I think, and knowing about your own sexual and reproductive health, that helps in a relationship, so you know kind of what you're getting into, what feels good for you, what's not good for you, and you can just go from there.
And I just want to like pick out what you just said as far as having a relationship with your provider. I know me, I've had to move a lot, but every time I make sure that I have a gynecologist that I trust. I can't just, because I know some of my friends who kind of just go whenever they feel like some kind of way, or whatever the case may be, or just for their yearly checkups. And maybe they use different people at different times. Yeah. And like you said, it's really important to choose one that you can build a relationship with, that you trust, talking about detailed things about your life. Because I'm telling you, two people you don't lie to is your lawyer and your doctor. Especially the doctor that takes care of your girly bits.
Right.
So right now, I just found, it took me a while, but I found a gynecologist that I love and that I trust, and I feel like I can talk to her about anything. And to me, that's really important.
Yeah.
To not just go to anybody when you have an issue, but to have somebody that consistently knows, like you said, about what your normal is versus what is normal in general.
Right. I totally agree with that. And I think that it may take some trial and error to find somebody that you know and you like and you trust. But I think it's important to develop that relationship. I also think it's important that if you stay with the same person, they can kind of see your history, they know your history, and they can tell you, okay, well, let's do this because it's not normal. And another thing about it, we're not here we don't judge. Like when we go in to check y'all out, we're just about business. They see vaginas every day. This is not a big deal to them. So we're just really there to kind of support you, make sure you're in optimal health, and to make sure that we're doing the right steps to get you there. So don't take it personal. Find somebody that you trust. Just find that relationship and build on it.
Cool. And so even like a part B to that question, what are some things that can affect a relationship as it relates to vaginal health? Whether, and I want to even put like whether you're having sex as a single woman or not, and even in a marriage. Because I think a lot of my fan base is, of course, Christian. And so there's this, you know, we save ourselves until marriage. But regardless, whether you're having sex or not, but even across single versus marriage. So I know that may be a couple different things.
So I think just like vaginal care in general, just making sure you know how to keep your stuff clean and not introduce any bacteria or anything harmful. So for me and for most providers, they'll tell you just washing daily, mild soap and water, not really using, you know, the vaginal cleaning products and those kind of things, because it's not really good for your area. The vaginal is really self-cleaning, so it's going to clean itself.
Again, I know so many women who use all the flowery, like whatever the brands are to like make sure that they smell extra good. And
no, it's probably doing you a disservice to actually do that. It can actually create more problems than it's worth. So don't do that. Find a mild soap, water. You got to let your baby breathe down there. So, you know, cotton underwear is best. I know it's probably not the sexiest.
But see, they're not the cute ones.
Right. It's probably not the sexiest, but cotton underwear is probably the best. You got to let the leggings go sometimes and just wear like regular pants.
Okay, now you stepping in. You stepping on my toes. Now I love a good pair of leggings.
And they're fine. Them. They're fine. Like leggings are fine, but you can't live in them. You can't live in those. I mean, you gotta let it breathe. You know, grooming habits. That's a personal decision. So whether you like it bald, hairy, whatever, that's totally up to you. Just to make sure that your area is clean.
Actually, so this is an interesting question. My gynecologist, I was talking to her randomly, and she was saying that you actually are more at risk if you wax than if you don't. Is that true?
It could be, because like you're peeling off, you know, the hair that's down there, and it can cause micro tears. So like if you have like these small tears down there, and then you're, you know, touching and stuff, you can introduce like bacteria and stuff in there. So it is possible, yes. I see that's why. Trimming is fine. Okay, trim back a little bit.
Like a hedge.
Right.
Okay. Well, I hope y'all learned something new about that. And also just to kind of add, I think too, you know, as we're talking about grooming and making sure that you're clean, like nobody wants to be, and do you think that this is not even professional anymore. So do you think that women can smell when they're a little off?
Yeah, it's possible. So
because I think that's
it's so you should have every vagina has their own smell. So every vagina is different. So what you smell like is different from what I'm gonna smell like. But everybody has their own normal. Sometimes, and then that's a lot of the time, my patients will come in, they're like, it doesn't smell right, like something is off, which is fine. You know, we'll test and see, and it could be like a yeast infection, could be bacterial vaginosis, could just be like you're using the wrong product today. Don't do that. But yeah, I think most women are intuitive to that. You don't agree?
I mean, it's not that I don't agree. I just feel like some people don't.
Maybe they have a poor sense of smell.
Maybe. But either way, I think that, you know, from the relationship aspect, that, you know, whether you're having sex or not, especially if you're married, you want to make sure that you smell, I don't even want to say pleasant, because then that goes back to using those products, but you smell like you.
Yeah.
You know, and that you're cognizant of what you smell like. You want to make sure that your overall scent is not offensive.
Sometimes the thing is, like, your partner may be the one to tell you that your scent is up. Like, if you can't smell it yourself, your partner will be the first one to tell you, like...
That would be the day I die.
I mean, that's what your partner for. Like, you should have that intimacy level where, you know, they're like, babe, something's not right. Yeah, something's not right. And I've had patients come in and they're like, yeah, he said it's off, so
I came to get checked.
Yes.
That's love.
Yeah,
that's love. I'll still die. So I just, you know, I make sure that I'm in tune.
Yes.
So we talked about misconceptions that you've dealt with a lot in the field. What are some common misconceptions so we can clear it up for our viewers today?
So we kind of touched on a couple. One is that, let's talk about pap smears.
Oh, yeah.
So
that fun time.
Good times always. So regardless if you've been sexually active or not, by the age of 21, you should be getting regular pap smears. So if you had sex, if you haven't, you should be getting regular pap smears.
And why is that?
So it's just to provide a baseline. You want to make sure that everything is working the way it's supposed to. You want to make sure there's no infections. You want to make sure there's no precancerous cells developing. So it's really important to start at the age of 21. Another one is that, you know, a lot of girls come in asking about, like, is my vagina normal? So what is normal for you is going to be different than what's normal for your best friend, your mom, your auntie, your girls. It's all going to be different. So your scent, you know, the amount of discharge you have, the way it looks, it's all going to be different, but your normal is your normal.
People out here comparing vaginas.
you don't, if I told you the stories that I be hearing,
I just assume that everything on me, if it works, I'm good. Like, I'm not here to figure out if it's abnormal or not. Like, that's interesting.
Yeah.
People are like, my friends look.
Yes, my friend said this and this and this, but yeah, your normal is your normal, and that's completely okay. Another misconception is that sometimes people, when they go in for just like a regular well check, you know, just a physical, they make the assumption that their doctor may be doing blood tests for, you know, STIs, sexually transmitted infections. And that may not be the case. So if that is something that you want, you definitely should talk to your doctor, your provider about it, and make sure that they're actually testing for that, because they may not automatically do that.
Okay. So always ask to make sure, like, if you do want to get tested, specifically ask to be tested when you go in for your well check.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
But I think sometimes people may not ask because they feel embarrassed.
And that is true. But again, like, we are here, we as in like healthcare professionals, we're here for your best interest. We just want to make sure that you're the healthiest. We're not here to judge. I've heard stories, but you know, I always go in and I'm not here to judge you. I just want to make sure that I'm giving you the best possible care so that you're in the best possible health. There's no judgment behind it. Bring a friend with you, tell the nurse, tell the medical assistant. If you don't want to tell the doctor, we always relay that information to the doctor. So.
Oh, that's interesting. I hadn't thought about that. Like, you can tell, like, the person maybe that takes your blood pressure before the provider comes in. And, you know, okay.
Yeah.
But definitely say something. You know, you don't want to be out here really carrying something but you didn't open your mouth because you were embarrassed or ashamed.
Yeah. So, and especially for younger girls under the age of 26, they have higher rates of sexually transmitted infections. So the gonorrheas, the chlamydia tricks. So it's important, if you are sexually active, to get screened for that once a year. You should have one screening for HIV per adult lifetime. So that's very important. For women over the age of 26, you know, we look at a lot of different risk factors, you know, how many partners they have, so on and so forth. Again, they should be screened for chlamydia, gonorrhea, chlamydia trick, and then HIV testing. Because some of the symptoms don't show up, or you may not be aware if you having any symptoms, and then, you know, changing partners or whatever, and just kind of spreading stuff or receiving stuff. So it's important to get that testing done if you're sexually active.
And I've actually heard too that it's better as a woman for you to get tested because the men's tests aren't always as accurate. Is that true?
I think, well, my personal perspective, it's as accurate. You know, we do kind of the same testing. Men just don't go to the doctor as often, and they may not present with symptoms. Like, women usually will present with symptoms. Men may have stuff, and you know, they don't even realize they have stuff. The only time I really see guys in the office is like when something is burning. We already know that they have something. That's the only real time you see guys coming in the office. Yeah. So for women, it's important, you know, because how our bodies are structured, we're like a reservoir. It's like a hole in there. So, you know, we can stuff sits in there. So it's important for us to get tested.
Okay, cool. And so another one, especially when I was married, I had a lot of my younger, you know, friends who were getting married, or even some of my older friends who were getting married, and they were like, well, what are you doing about birth control? What are you doing about birth control? And I know when I was married, I like tried different ones. I probably went through like 2 or 3 just because I couldn't find like that happy medium. I was gaining weight. I was feeling sick. I had some depression through one. And then after a while, I was just like, screw it. I didn't use anything. Well, we did natural family planning. So can we talk about birth control? It seems to be a really hot topic. People are talking about how really it's horrible. Let's just not do it at all. And some people are like, well, I've been on birth control for 10 years. You know, so let's talk about that. Can you explain the different types, and what's your take kind of on this semi-controversial issue of birth control?
So to me, birth control, it's a very personal issue. There's no right or wrong answer. And you're right. Sometimes it's going to take some trial and error to find the one that's going to work best for you. So in terms of the most effective ones on the market right now, those are your long-acting reversible birth control. So those are like your IUDs that go up into your cervix. You have the Nexplanon. It's an arm implant that sits in your arm. For people who have had their family, they're done, they can think about, getting their tubes tied or something like that. Those are the most effective ones on the market. And with those ones, with the long-acting reversible ones, I mean, they set stuff and you don't have to think about it. There's nothing to do. So that's kind of one of the benefits of doing one of those. Like, you get it in, you're good for a couple years, you don't got to think about anything, and it gives you really good protection against pregnancy if that's what you're trying to avoid.
But the IUDs, though, my friends, they've gotten them lost in there.
Okay, so I don't think IUD they can get dislodged, which is possible, yes. Lost? I don't know how that happened.
Well, okay, it was like, let's just say it was in a totally different place than when they had put it in.
Yes, it can migrate. They can migrate. There are different kinds, like, so there are the copper IUDs, there's...
That's the arm one?
No,
copper, that's still...
Copper, yeah, it's still...
Intrauterine, okay.
Yes, copper IUDs. They have the ones with hormones, so they have the Skyla and the Kylena, and there's different brands. And it's not for everybody. Some people get them and they totally love them. Some people get them and they're like, yeah, no. The one in the arm, it's a little less evasive. I mean, you still have to get it inserted into your arm, and there are benefits and drawbacks to it, but some people get it and they don't have a period for 3 years and they love it, and some people get it and they're like, yeah, there's too many side effects, I can't do this.
Really? And
yeah.
So I was reading, sorry, I'm just all up in this. So I was reading, when I was researching birth control, that there's still research being done on the copper, the implant copper as well.
It's made of like a flexible plastic thing,
okay.
But it is one of the newer ones on the market. So they're always going to do research on birth control because like some of these are very new. So they do the research to make sure it's safe to be put on the market, and then you do the research to make sure after it's on the market that there aren't any long-term effects and that kind of stuff. And the Nexplanon is what it's called. It is still pretty new, so I'm not surprised that they're still doing research on it.
So, but you feel confident that they're pretty safe methods, and like it doesn't hinder wanting to have a family in the future?
No, and the clinic I worked at, these are like young girls. So these are like teenagers, 16, 17, 18, who are getting these put in, and they get them put in for 3 years. Some girls love them and they come back in, and we take them out and put another one in. Again, everybody's different. So in terms of like future down the line, what will happen with pregnancy, there are a lot of different factors that play into, getting family and getting pregnant, those kind of things. I wouldn't say solely it's based on the birth control and this is why you're not getting pregnant. But there's also, the traditional methods. So, they have the pills, they have pills, patches, which is like the dermal patch that you cut. It looks like a nicotine patch. You place it on your body, you leave it on for a week, you take it off, do that for 3 weeks, and then you have your period. And then they have the ring. So that's the one that looks like a little circle. You fold it.
There's nothing little about that thing.
You fold it, you shove it up there, you leave it in for 3 weeks.
And it slips out. Well, let me stop. It actually, that was, of the different ones that I tried, that was probably the best one. I didn't have as many side effects. It's supposed to be the lowest.
Like estrogen.
Right, levels or whatever. And so it slips. Like, it'll start real high, and by the end of the day, it's real low.
So that's probably not the one for you.
So do you think that maybe because of size? Because I had a friend, my friend actually was telling me about it. She's like, you should try it. And she kind of had a similar issue, but after a while, I guess it just kind of
felt its way, like migrated. Yeah, and it could be like, so like I said, every vagina and everything is different for everybody. So it could be just about like your actual size of your vaginal canal. It could be like your cervix. Like there's a lot of different factors, but if it's slipping every time, it's probably not the one for you. Probably want to think about something else. And then they have like the traditional barrier methods. They have condoms. They have the male condoms. They got female condoms. They have Depo shot is another one. So that's a shot that you would get once every 3 months. You come into the office, we shoot you up, let you go on your way. What else? The family planning. You mentioned family planning. That's another method. You really got to stay on top of that one.
You probably, again, I'm gonna leave that one to the married folks.
Yeah.
Let's maybe not try that.
It's not. So in terms of pregnancy prevention, that's probably the lowest on the scale. If you're in a committed long-term relationship, you're married, that may be the best bet because it's not the most effective in terms of preventing pregnancies.
Right, but I'm also thinking about STIs. So
yes,
don't just be out here natural family planning with,
no,
Joe Blow you've been with for 6 months.
Right, and that's a good point. You should always, it's better in terms of preventing pregnancy if you double up. So let's say you're on the pill and you use the condom, or IUD and a condom, something like that. Yeah, definitely.
Nobody's doing that, right?
Well, y'all should be. Jeez.
I'm just saying, I don't know many people who do both. Actually, I don't know anybody who does both.
Well, you should.
I don't know why I know a lot about people's sex lives. People just feel free to tell me these things. So I have all these different kind of stories to pick one, but I don't think I know any. But most of them are married too. So
yeah, and that could be why. Like when you're married and having a kid is not a big deal to you, you can just do one and just roll with it and see what happens. I, on the other hand, am not trying to have any more children, so I'm doing everything I thought.
Everything
possible.
Are you wearing like a hazmat
suit
too?
Pretty much. So yeah. So birth control, it's personal. You gotta kind of go in with an open mindset. I always say pick one that's going to work best for your lifestyle. Mm-hmm. So what your girl may be using may not be the best for you. Mm. If you can't remember to take pills probably not the one for you. Right. Like just think about all the factors in your life and go ahead and choose one. If you choose not to have any, abstinence is the only way to prevent any pregnancy at all. So you don't got to do nothing. But if you're going to do something, just try to be safe about it.
Okay, so this is kind of a hot topic type of question. Well, not hot topic like everybody's talking about it, but it's kind of a hot button issue maybe. Can STIs still occur in a monogamous relationship without infidelity?
So it's possible. So let's unpack this a little bit. So STI, sexually transmitted infections, it's possible. So if somebody is coming into a relationship already within a sexually transmitted infection, so we're talking about like maybe herpes, HPV, potentially syphilis, something like that, it's possible. So for herpes, for example, they have like very active phases where there's like active lesion, and then there are phases where everything's normal. So if somebody comes into the relationship with herpes and they're in a dormant phase and they have sex, nothing may happen. But if they're having sex during an outbreak, then yes, it's possible to pass that on to your partner.
So if there was a dormant period, they got into the relationship, they didn't know, and then they had sex during, and you can only catch herpes during an active phase?
It's more likely. Yeah.
And so they have sex, and then next thing you know, their partner may get it, and then they're like, "You've been out here," but really it was that he just maybe didn't know or she didn't know.
Correct. That's possible. And then also HPV is another one. So stats say that like 98% of the sexually active population will get HPV in their lifetime.
Which is crazy.
Yes.
Because it causes so many issues.
Yes.
So.
Human papillomavirus is what it is. So most people are able to clear that virus on its own, but some people cannot. So let's say somebody had a strain of HPV and you get into a relationship with somebody else. Most times you won't have any like symptoms. You may be able to pass that on to your partner, and if it's a strain that they can't clear for some reason in their system, then it is possible to pass that on. And genital warts, and somewhere down the line, cervical cancer, or anal cancer, or throat cancer, something like that.
And that is so crazy, because when I was in high school, they were all about the 3 shots, the HPV shots and all that. And then now I've started to see commercials for men to get shots too. Yes. So whereas before they didn't even mention it to guys, now guys can get it and it can impact them.
Yes.
And they can get cancer.
Yes. That's so like the statistics, and there's more research coming out that men are actually being affected by it more, like the throat cancers and all that. Yeah. So that's why they're really pushing for men to get, or a little younger.
How do you get throat cancer, Janelle? Okay, that's not funny. Cancer's not funny. Okay.
But
yeah, I know that.
Yeah, that's why there's a bigger push now. Like it was always available for both boys and girls, but now that's why there's a bigger push.
Okay.
Yeah.
And those commercials are depressing. You're like, "Mom, did you know?" And there's like some sad kid like playing on the ground. Like, geez, Louise. Okay, and then so what else? What are some other things?
So there are like just regular infections. So let's talk about bacterial vaginosis, BV. So BV is it's an imbalance of your vagina. So your vagina has its own pH, which is usually balanced. There's no problems. You smell good. It looks good. Everything is wonderful. So if you're doing things to throw off that pH. So like, let's say you're douching or you're using vaginal products you're not supposed to, or I don't know, you're spraying stuff down there that you're not supposed to. That can throw off your pH and cause you to have bacterial vaginosis. Usually presents in like more discharge, really bad smell, so that can throw off. So it may not be your partner, it just may be actually things that you're doing to create that. Yeast infection is another thing. So yeast usually, again, happens when there's an imbalance of your vaginal pH. So let's say you're living in tights. Let's say you're wearing those silky drawers. Let's say you go running or you're exercising and you're living in those wet clothes for a long time. That can, again, throw off, you know, the balance of the bacteria in your vagina and then cause a yeast infection. So yeah, it could be just things that you're doing that you're not aware can throw off your pH.
And then you have sex and you pass it back and forth.
Yes, you could have sex and pass that back and forth. So yeah.
Okay, so that's informative because most people think that if there isn't, like, if somebody happens to go, they're not feeling good, they're in a, you know, long-term committed relationship or they're married, they go to the doctor, they get tested, and all of a sudden they have, you know, VV, and it's like, oh, well, how did I get that? You know, or did this person do whatever? And sometimes that's not the case.
It may not necessarily be the case, yeah. So if one person is treated and it keeps coming back, then your partner may also need to be treated for that as well.
All right. So for couples, so you do reproductive health. So for couples who are trying to conceive, is there anything that they should know before or during the process to kind of increase their chances?
Okay. So the first thing is, as hard as it may be, don't try to judge your situation, but with somebody else's situation, because it's going to be different. Everybody's journey to parenthood is different. I think it's really important to get healthy before you even decide that you want to have a baby. So what does that look like for women? You know, setting up a preconception visit with your doctor, making sure you take
preconception visits.
They have preconception visits. So, you know, making sure you're at the ideal weight, making sure you're eating well. If you're a smoker, you stop smoking, don't do drugs, decrease your alcohol intake, get on a prenatal, start your folic acid, just getting your bedding.
Even that far early.
Yeah, it's actually better. Just preparing. You want to prepare. You're preparing to carry another human being, so you got to really get your body in shape to do that. For men, it's kind of the same thing. You know, they want to make sure they're at ideal weight, they're exercising, they're eating well. You know, they're decreasing their alcohol intake. They have to prepare their body as well to make sure that, you know, they are ready to do this and giving themselves the best chances to conceive. And everybody's journey is a little bit different. So try not to don't stress over it. Things will happen. And if, you know, you get to year 2 and 3 and things aren't happening, that's when I shouldn't even say that long, but, you know, that's when you may want to go to your doctor and talk about things, and they can come up with a plan for you.
Okay. And so I think a lot of times if a couple's not conceiving, that weight kind of goes to the woman. So what are some things that can happen in men that maybe people don't know about as often that could cause, you know, issues in trying to conceive?
I mean, they could have a low sperm count. Men, usually that area needs to be cool, so their temperature around their genitals may be too high. It could be that, you know, if they're a substance abuse user, like if you're smoking too much, that may impact stuff. So there's a lot of things that men may be inadvertently doing that is like affecting their fertility. So
okay. And how about for women who are already pregnant? What are some of those important things that they should be aware of as it relates to their vaginal health?
So it's important for women, and hopefully, to get a pre-pregnancy appointment early on. So making sure that you set up an appointment, that you have a provider early on in your pregnancy, making sure everything is healthy, everything is going well. It's important to know that things are going to change down there. So, you know, your smell might be off a little bit.
Really?
You may have more discharge. Things are going to happen.
I've even heard that you're more likely to get yeast infections.
Yeah. Because, I mean, you have another living being in there. You know, it's more weight and your hat and things happen. So it's important to have a relationship with your provider so that you can go and say, hey, dude, I'm leaking all the time down there, and I'm not, it's always wet down there, and, you know, we can set up stuff to help with that. So just being on top of everything. If you don't feel confident, if you have questions about anything, definitely going to your doctor, because, I mean, that's what we're here for, to help you through the process.
Nice. Well, those are pretty much all the questions I have. Hopefully this was informative to you guys as far as your sexual, reproductive, and vaginal health. Thank you so much for coming. So how can everybody follow up with you? How can people reach you and you know, get in touch with your blog and some of the things that you talk about?
First of all, thank you for having me. So I love talking about women's sexual reproductive health. You can follow me on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter at The Nurse Note. Subscribe to my blog, thenursenote.com. Send me questions if you need advice about anything. I always try to do my best to help you guys out. So definitely follow me. You can just say hi if you want to.
Yeah, and she really, she's super, super sweet, as you guys can tell. So I'm sure that if you have any questions, she'll be happy to help you. And of course, like she said, subscribe to her blog, thenursenote.com, and you can get all of the notifications and stuff about when she writes new things, when she tries new fun little products and things like that. So thanks.
Thank you.
I really enjoyed this. I feel like I learned a little bit of something, so hopefully you guys did too. All right, tune in next time to Perspectives on Life.